Shanti. So, is the voice okay? Clear, audible? Okay. So, yesterday we were trying to paint a picture of how when we are egoless, or when there is no lust, anger, ego, attachment, or greed in Satyug, what it would look like, so that we can arrive at the attitude that we need to develop here in Sangam Yuga to create those sanskars, right? So today we will talk about being detached. So there is a lot of confusion about this word detachment, and if you conducted a survey and asked people whether they would like to be detached, I don't think many of them would say yes. So people don't like to be detached because probably they don't understand what detachment is. So there is a confusion about the interpretation of this word, and there's no clarity about how do we go about being detached. That's why we don't like this word. So now, amongst the 5 vices, it is said that attachment is a big one. So, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar. So, Moh is a big one. It's not never considered to be small. Now, when we say Moh is a big one and we have to not be attached, we have to be detached. So, Baba has given us this combination of 2 words, detached and loving. So he says you have to be detached, but you have to be equally loving. It's not detached and callous or detached and indifferent. It is detached and loving. So this is how you go about it. Now, what is detached and loving? So when just like if you take a piece of paper and you want to read it, but if you keep it too close to the eyes, you can't read it. So you need a certain distance for clarity. So this distance is called detachment. Okay, now when does this distance get lost? When we stop taking into consideration spiritual truths. Yes. For example, if I think that my child is an extension of me, and that there is no individual karmic journey of my child, and I conduct my life in a very oblivious way, which is I disregard the fact that my child is a separate soul and has a karmic journey of his own, and I start expecting that my child should be my true duplicate copy, and whatever is right or wrong, or whatever suits me should also suit my child, then that is when we are disregarding the spiritual truths. And this kind of a disregard for spiritual truths won't work very long, because this will lead to expectations which cannot be fulfilled by design, and that's why they will lead to disappointment. So one has to understand, one has to keep these spiritual truths in mind, which is the truth about the soul, the truth about the soul's journey, the truth about every soul being unique and they having a unique destiny, the truth about the design being what it is. And sometimes you are taking up a project and not doing much, and then there is a lot of success, that is, the project just works. And then sometimes you do everything and it doesn't work. So you have to do work, you have to take care of people around you. That is loving. That is, you should extend that energy of love and cooperation and belonging and care to the other person, or the work that you're doing. But then you should also keep in mind the journey, or the gyan of destiny, the gyan of soul, the gyan of karmic journey. And when you keep all this in mind, you will be able to sustainably extend that energy of love to the other person or to the work you are doing, despite they not being your way instantly. So this is what we mean by detached and loving. So when we talk about love, love is an energy that flows from one to the other, and this love is characterized by 4 aspects, so which I call the ABCD of love. And here A stands for acceptance. So you have to have complete acceptance of the journey of the person you are dealing with, the journey of the soul who is in front of you. And you know by spiritual knowledge that each one's journey is different by design, and you have to be in complete acceptance of it, right? So then B is belonging. So it's not just that okay I accept, but then it's okay, मेरा क्या जाता है, मुझे आपसे क्या लेना देना है, आप जो हैं जैसे, मुझे आपसे कोई तकलीफ नहीं है, अब आप जाइए. It is not like that. So there has to be a sense of belonging, and that sense of belonging comes up from the fact that the person in front of you is a child of God and you are a child of God. So in that sense you belong to each other. So there has to be that sense of belonging. It's not like I'm not related to you or I don't care what happens to you. So there has to be acceptance, then there has to be belonging, and the third thing is there has to be care. So okay, I will say I love you, so I accept you as you are, and okay, you are a child of God, so God should take care of you. So I am not responsible for taking care of you. So a human should extend a sense of care to another human. That is, if you are in an environment where there are other people, so it is human to care for each other, right? So you can't be oblivious to every person's concerns or their needs when you are in a loving state. So you care for each other, right? Now, and then the D of love is detachment. So you have belonging, you care, but then you don't expect anything in return. That is detachment. So love is characterized by all these 4 things. So when we say detached and loving, we mean that one has to be detached, that is, there is absolutely no expectation from the other person, but yes, there is acceptance of who they are, there is a sense of belonging, and then there is care as well. And love connects. So the most important quality of love is it is like a glue which connects you to the other person, other soul. So when you are loving, then the other person will feel a sense of connection with you. And when something is connected, then transmission is very easy. So if you want to extend an idea or extend, or just put across your some kind of a good wish, or you want to put across a certain kind of idea which is necessary for harmony. So all that will go across very easily when there is love. Yes. So this is something, I will tell you one example. There is a brother who comes to me and he told me, he's a businessman. So he told me that once his client, a very important client, called him up and said that he doesn't want to go through the deal he made some days back because he is not in good health. And he said he's suffering miserably. So this fellow said that I got so disturbed by this thing, that deal is not going across, that I couldn't even hear that he is not well. So I was not concerned about whether he is well or not. And then I just made some attempts so that the deal gets cracked and I am able to supply the things to him. But then that conversation ended. And then some days later, when they were in touch again, that fellow said ki you were so busy, you were so concerned about the business that you didn't even ask me whether I am fine, and you didn't even wish me speedy recovery. And he laughed about it because he was a person of light spirit. But then most people will not take that very easily. So this is something, there has to be care, genuine care. And when there is genuine care, then anything that happens between you and the other person cannot stop you from feeling that sense of belonging which is genuine. So you don't change from being respectful to disrespectful, because that sense of acceptance, belonging and care is always there. And then when these things are there, then that natural connection is never lost. You may not be on the same page with regard to many things, but then when you are loving, so that sense of connection is never lost, because this care, this belonging and this acceptance which is coming from a spiritual point of view is intact. So this is something, most relationships, what I have felt is, and I will, this is a very big piece of knowledge. So there are, when relationships start, you are attracted to each other and you like each other, and then there is a lot of expectation and there is a lot of dreaming about how life would be together, and then you come together. And then something goes wrong, and then there are so bitter memories that they create trauma and they create so many other things in the subconscious, and then life becomes miserable. Have you seen this phenomena happening? Yes. So you must understand what this is about. And this is a very important piece of spiritual knowledge that everybody must understand. And so whenever you have a karmic settlement, that karmic settlement will attract you first. Okay? So every karmic settlement attracts you first. Right? And until and unless you get attracted to something, you will never own it up, or you will never be with it. So any karmic settlement attracts you first. So when you have a karmic settlement which is going to be settled through a person, then that person you will find very attractive. Or you will find the ice cream very attractive when you have a bad cold. Or you will find a house very attractive and you will want to buy it. and then you will use unfair means to accumulate money for it. So these are ways in which karmic settlement attracts you. And then when you fall into its clause, then what happens is you end up going into expectation and other stuff. And then when you have built that whole force, which is it has taken you into its clutches, then slowly whatever that karmic settlement promised you won't seem to be getting materialized. And then there would be disappointment, and then there would be consequences which would be very difficult to face. So this is how a karmic settlement works. That is why, people say, whenever they talk of people who they say कि शुरू में तो बहुत अच्छा था, and I have such fond memories of this person, and it was great, and it was unmatched, and it was very lovely, and then suddenly I don't know what happened and everything went wrong. So what you have to understand is, if you are attached, that is, if you fall into the trap, then you will suffer. So whenever somebody is with you, it's not recommended that you don't be with them, but always remember that that if I get attached, this will be a karmic settlement. So you have to understand that anything that is attractive, you have to deal with it with spiritual consciousness. You have to remember that I am a soul and nothing is coming free, and anybody who I find loving and attractive today will soon make me dependent, and then I will suffer for it. So you have to take care of yourself and be in a relationship. So you have to accept, you have to have that sense of belonging and care, but you also have to take care of detachment, because attachment will lead to dependency, and dependency will lead to expectation, and then expectation will sow the seeds of disappointment. So this is how it has to go. You have to keep the spiritual perspective in mind while dealing with people. And then when we create these sanskars of being in relationships, being with people, and being completely detached and loving, then in Satyug we are in an age where there is nothing like attachment. We don't know how to be attached. So Baba has never told us that you become a sannyasi and you leave the home and don't be with people. So Baba says, no, sambandh is very beautiful, you should have connections, but those connections should not be based on expectations of lust or ego fulfillment or some kind of other expectations which you have from the other. It should be based on mutual respect, mutual love, and you should be very detached in a relationship when you are operating. That is, you don't function from a point of expectation. This is something that you need to ensure. So this is about a brief vision of how Satyug would be, egoless and attachmentless. And then, did you receive a picture of the drama wheel yesterday? Yes. So could you go through it, and did it make sense to you? Because we have kind of done that without the picture. So in that picture you can see that it's a 5,000 year cycle, and each of the yug, 5,000 years, is divided into 4 yugs: Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug and Kali Yug. And then between Kali Yug and Satyug there is a small yug which is Sangam Yug. So in this 5,000 years, each yug is equally divided into 1250 years. So somebody is saying that they have not received the picture, so we will send that to you. All right. So this is how the whole cycle is divided, and in the first 2 halves of the cycle, that is Satyug and Treta Yug, We don't have lust, ego, anger, attachment, and greed. There is no vice. And then we are full of love, purity, peace, happiness, bliss, and power. So, this is the state in which we operate. And then slowly, we, the soul operating with matter, lose our energy and we come to Dwapar Yuga. So, Dwapar Yuga is the time when vices enter, just like darkness enters as soon as the light is less. Similarly, vices enter when virtues are less. So, when vices enter, yesterday I gave you that example of that game going on in the playground in front of your house, and then how when the older players start getting tired, the newer ones join. So now you know that there has been adequate research which tells you that all these religions and all the shastras that were written, Ved, Shastra, Upanishad, everything in the Hindu religion was written between 2500 years back from now to 2000 years back. So mostly the Ramayana, the Gita, Ved, Upanishad, everything was written in that period of time. And then if you look at the major religions, so Abraham came 2500 years back, then Buddha came approximately 20 to 50 years back, Christ came approximately 2000 years back, and then so all these major religions also came at that time. Why? Because Baba says that तुम जब स्वधर्म से दूर चले गए. Swadharma means when the soul lost its inner power, so you needed an external religion to guide you. Because when you are in Swadharam, which means that the soul is in its power, then you are guided by your conscience. Yes, you are guided by your conscience. Do you have an active conscience? Yes, so now what is the conscience? We will understand here. So the conscience is that part of the buddhi which is like a GPS for you in your life. So just like you all use GPS when you drive, and that GPS will tell you which way to take if you have to reach to a certain destination. So just like that, your conscience will tell you how to guide your life to a state of inner fulfillment. And your conscience will bite you when you are not going in the direction which ensures that you stay peaceful and pure and happy. So when you are going against your original nature, your conscience bites you. Yes? But there is a very interesting thing about the GPS, and that thing applies to the conscience also. So when you're working with the GPS, what happens is, if the GPS is asking you to take a certain route and you don't take it and you always take another route, then what happens is the GPS also reroutes itself. Yes, so if you just take another route, so the GPS also reroutes itself. Similarly, about the conscience also, now you must note this down. This is a very important law of the conscience. If you go against your conscience many times, it loses functionality. If you go against your conscience many times, it loses functionality. And it has been understood through whatever we have done in the Brahma Kumaris, and there's some study we have done, and it is understood that on an average, a person goes against his conscience 6 to 7 times in a day. So that is why the conscience is not functional anymore. So the conscience is not functioning well. That is why we are going to gurus, and we are going to spiritual classes, and we are going to different people and asking, should I do this? Should I not do this? Will this be okay? Will this not be okay? So why we are asking these questions to other people is because our best friend who was with us and was guiding us is now weak and is not guiding us very well, right? So it has lost functionality. And Baba or God is known by several names in several religions, and one of the name that Baba is given is restorer of conscience. And Baba is called Buddhivano ki Buddhi. Why? Because it is when Baba comes that our conscience gets restored. So when you start meditating, your sense of what you should do and what you shouldn't do, what you should think and what you shouldn't think, what you should speak and what you shouldn't speak, gets developed very nicely, right? So you kind of go back to that state where your inner guide starts functioning very well. Do you think that ever since you started taking this course, this process has also started? That is, you are able to stop yourself or check better than you could do earlier. Yes? So this is how the conscience is getting restored. So because Baba is the Buddhivano ki Buddhi, so when we come in contact with Baba, so Baba empowers our Buddhi, which is the discerning organ, जिसके अंदर परखने की शक्ति है, तो हमारी परख शक्ति और the power of discernment grows, and our conscience becomes sensitive, and we become sensitive to what I am doing and what it would lead to. So this is something. Now what happens is, from Dwapar Yug to Kali Yug, we don't have access to Baba, but we have access to other people who are learned and who have joined the game later, because the Dharmatma and Mahatmas are pure souls. They have come straight from Paramdham. So souls who have been here for a while, who have taken birth after birth, have got depleted, and now they have lost energy. So souls who are on the stage, have taken birth after birth, are now depleted, and there are certain fresh souls who join the game, and those souls are the ones who are a little learned, and when they come from Paramdham, they give this knowledge. So every religion, if you see, they talk about how we are children of the same God, and how we are souls, how God is light and we are light, but then we are not able to they give us the knowledge, but they don't give us the power. So that's why instead of getting connected with the teaching, we get connected with the teacher, because the teacher who gives the knowledge looks very attractive, and we have this sense of dependency because we have lost power. So we want to attach to somebody and feel powerful. So we don't take power and come back to our power. what we do is we become attached to the teacher. And this is why we don't take to the teaching, we take to the teacher, right? And that is why it is said, हम गीता की नहीं मानते, गीता को मानते हैं, है ना? हम गीता को मानते, गीता की नहीं मानते, रामायण को मानते, रामायण की नहीं मानते, क्योंकि रामायण की मानने के लिए we need power. So we don't have that kind of spiritual power to put those teachings into action. So we just take it and we understand that, okay, this teacher is good, this book is good, the shastra is good, and we consider it as holy and divine, and we keep it in our houses. But then we don't have the power to do what they are saying, right? So in this way, religions are formed and everything happens, and for some time, because we get attached to the teacher, and the teacher is in a greater spiritual power, so for some time we take that, we in his radiated glory, we shine for some time. But then as soon as the teacher goes away, we come to being ourselves, and slowly the decline of that religion happens. So we are not able to develop our own spiritual light. We shine in reflected glory for some time, and then that light goes off, and then we also come back to darkness. And then the darkness keeps increasing, and the vices keep increasing, and our increasing dependency on the attributes of the body and the labels and roles and recognitions and people around us keeps increasing, until we come to this state when we have exploited and over-consumed everything that there is on the planet and everyone there is on the planet, and still we feel so empty inside. And then Baba comes, right? Now, here we will understand one very important thing, which is Baba comes and Baba gives us spiritual knowledge. Baba tells us the truth. But there is a rule that you can only understand that which is part of your memory track. Okay? You never learn something new. You cannot learn something that you have never known. Okay. Now, just imagine why in a class of 60 or 70 students with the same teacher, and probably there are twins in that class who come from the same family, same background. They might have the same grey matter as well, but then they understand that class differently and they get different marks, and their understanding and their performance are different. Right now, so many of you are taking this course, but I'm sure each of you understand it differently. So why is this so? Because I told you that when you listen to something, what you are listening to is not important. What it triggers within you is important. Yes? So when listening to criticism, when listening to abuse, when seeing defamation, what is within gets triggered. When listening to knowledge also, what's within gets triggered. It's not what's being given, it's what's within that gets triggered. Now you must have seen that 4 friends go for a movie, and then when they come out of the movie and discuss the movie, they sound like they've been to 4 different movies. Because they are discussing parts of it, or they got influenced by, or they got inspired by, or affected by, or moved by parts of the movie which the other person didn't even take notice of. So for me, a scene could be like, okay, it's just a scene, but for you, it could trigger something in you, and then you will get moved with that scene, and I will not be affected by that scene. So this is what, when something is laid down before us, we don't take to what is being given, we take to what part of me resonates with it. Okay? Now, we all have traveled a journey, right? And some of us in this whole world of 8 billion souls, some of us have been here for the last 5,000 years, some of us came later, some of us came just in the 100 years period. So then, depending on when we came, we have a memory track. Yes? Now, somebody who was not here in Satyug and Treta Yuga has not seen a world of egolessness and a world free of attachment. Yes? So when you give them this idea that that a world of egolessness and detachment is possible, they won't understand it. It won't make sense to them. You know why you people keep nodding when this gyan is being given to you? You nod at that piece of memory which gets activated when you listen to this gyan. So it makes sense to you because you were there. I have seen so many people who say that it is, and I'm not even talking about egolessness, and I'm not even talking about detachment. I'm talking about something like gender equality. That a soul in a female body and a soul in a male body deserve the same respect and regard. So this concept also will not make sense to most people. Yes, and you must be aware of at least some people in your surroundings who do not get this. So why does this not make sense? Because about the time in Satyug and Treta Yuga, it is said, जहाँ देवताओं का निवास होता है वहाँ नारी का सम्मान होता है ना? यत्र नारेस्तु पूजन्ते तत्र रमन्ते देवता. So this whole thing about men and women deserving the same respect was only true in the Satyug and Treta Yuga. And from Dwapar Yuga onwards, because we became body conscious, so physical strength had more value than anything else. So from that time onwards, male bodies became more valuable than female bodies. So anybody who has not been in the Satyug and Treta Yuga will not understand that men and women deserve the same respect, or children and adults deserve the same respect, because if you have come at an age where there was this differentiation on the basis of age and gender and caste and religion, then these things won't make sense to you. So that is why when we listen to Gyan, it only makes sense to those souls who have this as part of their memory track. Okay, and I told you that up to 33 crores population, it was Treta Yuga. So up to the 2500 years in the beginning, it was Satyug and Treta Yuga, and the maximum population that has been in that time is 33 crores. So this whole Gyan will make sense only to those 33 crores souls, because this whole Gyan is about egolessness and understanding that everyone deserves the same love and respect despite differences in age, gender, occupation, label, everything. And you can't understand this concept until and unless you have been at a time where you have experienced that this is possible. Do you get it? So this is the basic thing that we need to understand here, that it won't make sense for souls who are not there. Okay? So now, one thing is that you can't understand it if you have not experienced it. And you can't become it if you don't understand it. So if something doesn't make sense to you intellectually, how can you put it into execution? That's not possible. So that precisely means that only those who were there in Satyug will contain the seed of Satyug consciousness, and then that seed will be watered in Sangam Yuga, and only those will make effort to again go to Satyug. So that thing which I told you about souls having a unique part and souls having a recording, now do you see how that works? Because if you have a memory, then time will emerge that memory. When Baba comes, when Sangam Yuga arrives, then that memory gets activated, and then you go back to being that. If you don't have that memory, nothing can trigger it, and you will only go back to being yourself. You can't go back to being somebody else. So this is why this is a very fixed drama, with everybody having a unique role. And if you are Satyugi, you can't help it. You will have to do all the work to go back to being yourself. And if you are not Satyugi, you can't help it. You cannot get hold of this idea. So this is how it is. All right. And then there is nothing wrong or right or good or bad or high or low about it, because we need everybody on the planet. We need people who will understand and do this inner work. Yes. And we also need people who will not do this and create more and more chaos so that we move towards destruction. So both these are important. So people who are required to do the work to ensure the age that comes after this are required, but people are also required to ensure that this age finishes. So those people will do their work, you will do your work, and there is no wrong or right or good or bad about it. All that is body conscious. So you will only do what makes sense to you, and other people will do what makes sense to them. And when you see people doing things differently, you should understand that they are also important and they are making their contribution, and it is necessary. Can you come up with this attitude? So now you see, when you see the last scene in a movie, it looks very chaotic, but actually it's all moving towards a happy ending. So if you remember that after this there is a happy ending, so you look at all that fight and drama, and you can look at it with great interest and in a happy state, because you know that we will all do our work and then there will be a happy ending. Okay, so does this make sense to you? Do you get it? Okay, now I will tell you about an analogy which exists in the world which makes it very clear. So there is an analogy of a metamorphosis of a butterfly, and you must have read it in your school or sometime in your life, about the metamorphosis of a butterfly. And if I tell you in some detail, what happens is, the butterfly when it is in its stage of a caterpillar, so then the caterpillar just eats all day and consumes so much that it surfeits, and then because it eats more than it can digest, so then it can't move, and then all the cells of the caterpillar start creating a thought that I'm going to die, because of the way it has conducted itself. And in those moments, there are certain cells inside the caterpillar which are known as the imaginal cells. And what are imaginal cells? These imaginal cells are the cells that contain the DNA of the butterfly. Okay? So all the other cells start thinking that we are going to die, and these imaginal cells have the vision of being a butterfly because they contain the DNA of the butterfly. And then these cells start connecting with each other. And when they start connecting with each other, the other cells who do not understand what's going on because they are preparing for death, they start attacking these cells because these cells are uniting with each other so that they transform into a butterfly. Now these other cells feel that something is going on against us. So they start attacking these cells. But what the imaginal cells do is they keep connecting with each other and creating that force, and they do not engage or they do not spend their time and energy in fighting the other cells. They just keep connecting with each other and keep doing their work. And then just when the caterpillar thought it would die, it changes into a butterfly because the other cells collapse and these imaginal cells change into a butterfly. So if you see this analogy, this is the analogy of the time we are going through right now. And there are 33 crores imaginal cells in this world, and Baba is asking us to do Gupta Purusharth. What is Gupta Purusharth? You don't have to beat drums about it. You just have to keep doing your inner work of being soul conscious, of connecting with Baba, of taking power, of increasing your inner strength and resilience, developing virtues. And you don't have to make a big show about it because other people will not get it and they will be against you. So what you do is you just keep doing your own work, and if you find in another imaginal cell who resonates with this idea, take them with you. Okay, so you don't force anybody, you don't press upon anybody that this is the truth, this is what you need to understand, because not everybody will understand, and everybody is right in their own way. This is what you have to understand, because everybody is acting according to their predestined role. So there is nothing right or wrong about it. If you take to this practice, you are right. If you don't take to this practice, also you are right. Because you have to be right according to you. And not everybody has the same recording in them. So you will only do what makes sense to you. So there are certain cells in this world, certain souls in this world to whom this knowledge will make sense, and we are looking for them. And when it makes sense to you, you also start doing this inner work. And when you start doing this inner work, we collectively create that force which gives rise to Satyug, and every other cell is operating with fear, and the whole world is going towards destruction. and then we are creating this force. So just when the whole world thought everything will collapse, it will change into heaven. And those ones who have worked for it will go there, and others will go back to the soul world. So this is something that we need to understand, and then they will come back at a time when the prakriti, when the state of consciousness here resonates with the state of their consciousness. So if they have not done any inner work, they will come back at a time when there is Dwapar Yuga or Kali Yuga, and then they again will start doing what they have done every Kalp. Kalp means every 5,000 years. All right. So this is the knowledge of drama. So tomorrow I will tell you how Baba comes and how he gives us this knowledge. Okay. So let's meditate for a few minutes and then we will stop. Hanji, Sulakshana Ben, are you saying something? Boliye. Okay, there are some people asking that when will this course continue? So let me tell you, this is a lifelong journey, and you may choose to leave whenever you like. So if somebody is not comfortable, they can discontinue, but this will continue forever. So you have to choose when to leave. We are not leaving. Okay. Fine, so let's meditate for a few minutes. So wait a second. Sit still. Have a moment of silence. And in this moment of silence, become aware of the spiritual dimension get in touch with the reality of your own being. I am a soul on this stage where the world drama is being acted out. I have a unique role to play in this world drama. I am the one who contains the seed of Satyugi consciousness. I am one of the few who can envision a state of the world where there is perfect purity, pure peace, and unconditional love and respect. I water this seed of consciousness every day through the spiritual class and meditation. And as I water it, I manifest it into action. My eyes, my words, my acts are filled with unconditional love and respect. And as I do so, other Satyugi souls are also inspired to take up this practice. And together, we are laying the foundation of a transformation of this world into Satyug. This is the big work that's going on in the spiritual plane. Baba, God Himself, is the one driving this force. And I am in God's army. I am one of His soldiers. Sit in this feeling for some time of being part of God's plan.